Welcome to Left Africa.
Okay, let's unpack this. So, imagine you work in this massive 90-story corporate skyscraper.
Right, like a really bustling ecosystem.
Yeah, exactly. It's incredibly complex. You have thousands of employees, endless departments, and this massive facilities management team whose sole job is just keeping the lights on and the gears turning.
Sure, just maintaining the beast.
Right. Now imagine someone walks in off the street wearing a tailored suit and somehow manages to build an entirely fake floor on level 45.
Wait, like an actual fake floor?
Literally.
Yeah.
I mean, they put up drywall, they bring in heavy oak desks, they hire staff who genuinely think they are working for a real corporate department.
Oh, wow.
And the most staggering part of this whole scenario, the building management just unknowingly pays for that floor's electricity, its high-speed internet, and its entire payroll every single month without anyone asking a single question.
Well, when you frame it like that, it sounds like the plot of some surreal heist movie.
It really does.
I mean, the immediate reaction is to assume someone would check the original blueprints or at the very least notice the elevator stopping at a floor that shouldn't exist.
You would think so.
But a truly sophisticated fake floor, right? It requires exploiting the building's own maintenance protocols. It's not just a heist. It is an infrastructure hack.
And in the world of massive bureaucratic governance, those blueprints are a lot harder to read than any of us might think.
Oh, absolutely.
So welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at a truly fascinating investigative dossier today. It's titled The $1 Million Ghost Government.
And it is a wild ride.
It really is. It aggregates this breaking BBC investigation, official Nigerian police force statements, historical budget documentation, and some very urgent reform proposals from civil society groups.
All converging on this one event.
Exactly.
Okay.
So our mission today is to figure out how a completely fake government council infiltrated Nigeria's national budget to siphon off $1 million. And, what this audacious heist teaches you about the invisible vulnerabilities inside massive bureaucracies.
Because we're looking at this way beyond the lens of just a simple true crime story.
Right.
What we are really unpacking here is a masterclass in what this dossier calls they call it the infrastructure of corruption.
The infrastructure of corruption.
Yeah. It is an exploration of the procedural gaps and the bureaucratic blind spots that allow a simple paper forgery to just mutate into institutional theft on a really grand scale.
And for you listening, I mean, whether you work in corporate compliance, maybe the tech sector, or you just pay your taxes and expect them to fund real things, this deep dive is going to completely change how you view official authority.
Totally.
Because these vulnerabilities aren't isolated to one country's government, right? They exist in almost every massive system we interact with daily.
They absolutely do.
So, where does a ghost government actually begin? How does someone go about hauling drywall into the metaphorical skyscraper?
Well, the genesis of something this massive is almost laughably small. I mean, it begins with a single piece of paper.
Just one paper.
Literally one piece of paper. Specifically, a forged letter of appointment.
Wow.
Yeah. The principal suspect in this case, a man named Adeyemi, allegedly created a completely fictional entity.
Right.
He called it the Presidential Fiscal Integrity and Policy Committee, or the PFIPC.
I have to point out the absolute irony embedded in that name, by the way.
It is so rich.
Right. He created a fake committee, and its supposed mandate was to advise the presidency on fiscal discipline and budget efficiency.
Yeah, you can't make it up.
He essentially built a fake watchdog to steal the very money it was theoretically supposed to be guarding.
The audacity of the naming convention alone is just striking.
Yeah.
But the execution is the critical element here. So Adeyemi allegedly produced this fraudulent letter, meticulously formatted, right, to look like it was signed by a senior presidential aide.
And had the seals and everything.
Complete with a forged presidential seal. And that one piece of paper became a skeleton key to the Nigerian treasury.
Unbelievable.
With it, he didn't just quietly divert a few payments, He established a fully operational presidential council.
And I keep thinking about the day-to-day logistics of this. Because the dossier notes, the PFIPC didn't hide in the shadows at all.
Not even a little bit.
They had a director general. They had a formal staff structure. They had official letterhead. They were operating in plain sight.
Right, in the open.
So if they were sending official emails and, holding actual interdepartmental meetings and dispatching formal correspondence, how did the illusion hold up?
That's the million-dollar question.
I mean, if someone sends me an email from a department I've never heard of, my very first instinct is to look them up on the company directory or just Google them. Why didn't someone in the real government just Google them?
What's fascinating here is that the most successful fraud doesn't try to hide from the bureaucracy. It actively mimics it.
Like camouflage.
Exactly. It camouflages itself in the mundane. A functioning fake committee creates a really powerful illusion of legitimacy simply by performing boring, everyday administrative tasks.
Huh.
Think about the psychology of the workplace, right?
Yeah.
If you receive an email from a committee with a long bureaucratic name asking for a routine policy update, your brain doesn't immediately jump to the conclusion that you are witnessing a crime.
No, of course not. You just sigh and think it's more paperwork.
Right. Your brain categorizes it as administrative noise.
So you just assume they exist because they are creating the exact same kind of friction a real government agency creates. They're basically being annoying in a highly official capacity.
That camouflage is incredibly effective. They behaved exactly the way a legitimate government body is expected to behave.
Right.
They held meetings, they circulated memos, they likely demanded updates from other departments. And in a massive bureaucracy, the workforce is hyper-focused on their own specific tasks.
Yeah, everyone's just trying to get through their inbox.
Nobody has the time, let alone the official mandate, to pause their day and verify the existential reality of the department sending them a memo. The assumption of legitimacy is just the default setting.
Okay, that makes sense from a day-to-day operational standpoint.
Yeah.
You can print some high-quality letterhead, you can book a conference room, and you can play the part.
Sure.
But we need to transition to the mechanics of the actual payout. Because acting like an agency is one thing, but pulling $1 million out of a national treasury is another.
It's a whole different ballgame.
I'm assuming you can't just, mail an invoice to the Ministry of Finance with a sticky note saying, please pay my fake staff.
No, definitely not.
There'd be layers of approval, right?
There are immense layers of approval. The Nigerian budget process is a multi-stage, multi-agency labyrinth.
Okay.
It involves the Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning, the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, the National Assembly Appropriation Committees, and the presidency itself.
Wow, that's a lot of cooks in the kitchen.
And for funding to move, it requires sign-offs across this entire spectrum.
Which means the fraudster had to somehow navigate this fake entity through every single one of those checkpoints.
And that reveals a massive systemic vulnerability at the very first gate. The dossier refers to this as a failure in the authentication of mandate.
Authentication of mandate.
Yeah. A forged presidential letter, when presented at the correct desk with an unwavering posture of authority, that was sufficient to initiate a budget line item.
That is just wild to me.
The PFIPC was formally allocated funding through the national budget, roughly $1 million US, which translates to about 1.5 billion naira at current exchange rates.
The fact that nobody at any of these checkpoints picked up a phone to call the presidency to verify the letter it's wild. But I imagine there are deeply ingrained cultural or structural reasons for that blind spot.
There are. It comes down to a really potent mix of culture and scale.
Okay.
First, there is a profound deference culture embedded in civil service environments.
Right.
In a strict hierarchy, a document bearing a presidential seal is treated with absolute reverence. It is meant to be actioned, not interrogated.
Oh, I see.
A mid-level civil servant operates under immense pressure. The last thing they want to do is stall a presidential directive because they felt, suspicious of the stationery.
Well, you're just trying to keep the workflow moving. You see the seal, you assume it's way above your pay grade to question it, and you just stamp the approval.
Exactly. And that deference is compounded by sheer scale, which brings us to the second factor, which is budget opacity.
Okay.
We have to consider the math here. The national budget of Nigeria is roughly 50 trillion naira.
50 trillion.
Yeah. Burying a 1.5 billion naira allocation for something called the Presidential Fiscal Integrity and Policy Committee inside a 50 trillion naira document. That is remarkably easy.
Because it's a drop in the ocean.
To a reviewer parsing thousands of pages of budget lines, $1 million is literally a rounding error. It simply doesn't trigger an alarm.
Okay, so if hierarchical culture and the sheer scale of the budget are providing cover, there has to be a technological blind spot too, right?
Oh, definitely.
I mean, surely there is a digital infrastructure tracking where all of these billions are flowing.
There is a highly sophisticated system in place. It's called GIFMIS.
GIFMIS.
Yeah, the Government Integrated Financial Management Information System.
Yeah.
It's maintained by the Federal Ministry of Finance, and it is explicitly designed to track payments, manage accounting, and prevent duplication.
So how did this get past GIFMIS?
Well, the PFIPC case exposes a critical flaw in its logic. GIFMIS can only process and verify payment requests that are tagged to official budget codes.
Right.
It fundamentally lacks the capacity to authenticate the physical, legal existence of the government body attached to that code.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because the way you're describing GIFMIS, it makes it sound almost like an automated bank teller.
How so?
Like a machine that is perfectly engineered to verify if a check is filled out correctly. It scans the date, it verifies the signature line, it checks that the routing number matches a known format.
Right.
But the machine is fundamentally incapable of checking if the human being who wrote the check actually has a real physical bank account in the first place.
That is exactly it.
If the formatting on the paperwork aligns with the system's rules, the machine just spits out the cash.
That is the perfect analogy for the mechanical failure here. If a fraudulent committee manages to secure a budget code,
which Adeyemi achieved using that initial forged letter.
right, then GIFMIS treats the entity as legitimate. The software doesn't know it's processing payments for a ghost. It only knows that the submitted code matches the database.
Wow.
And this creates what the dossier identifies as siloed verification.
Siloed verification. And, for everyone listening, think about how this happens at your own job.
It happens all the time.
Desk B approves an invoice because they just assume Desk A already fully vetted the vendor.
Yeah.
And then Desk C executes the wire transfer because they assume Desk B checked the legal credentials. We do this every day in our own email chains.
It is a totally universal vulnerability. Desk A only processed the initial paperwork because they were intimidated by the fake presidential seal.
Right.
And no single official across the entire labyrinth is ever explicitly tasked with validating the root source.
That is terrifying.
And this siloed verification extends all the way to the highest levels of oversight.
Really, even at the top.
Even during the budget defense process. This is the stage where agencies must physically appear before the National Assembly committees to justify their financial requests.
Wait, don't tell me.
The PFIPC representatives actually showed up.
You are kidding me. Going back to our skyscraper metaphor, that's like the workers from the fake 45th floor going down to the lobby, presenting fake ID badges to the board of directors, eating the catered lunch, and just going back upstairs unchecked.
It is a staggering level of confidence. They presented their forged mandate, they maintained their official persona, and they received their appropriation.
Because the committee members are just looking at the spreadsheets.
Right. The National Assembly committee members are focused on the numbers being requested, not independently verifying if the agency was legally gazetted in the first place.
The audacity is just incredible. But to really understand the mechanics of this, we have to look backward. Right?
You do.
Because I know from my own reading that ghost workers are an old problem. Like keeping a deceased employee on a corporate payroll to collect their checks.
Sure, that's a classic scheme.
But the dossier suggests this isn't just an isolated incident. It's an evolution.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the PFIPC affair is deeply rooted in a known historical pattern of public sector fraud in Nigeria.
Okay.
But it represents a significant mutation. To understand the leap, you just have to look at the precedents.
Like what?
For instance, former Taraba State Governor Darius Ishaku was convicted over a 1.8 billion naira Christmas grains fraud.
Right, the Christmas grains. That was a relief program where the funds were allocated and dispersed, but the actual grains never existed in the warehouses.
Correct. The project itself was a phantom.
Wow.
Then look at the 2013 police pension fund fraud.
I remember that one being massive.
Oh, it was 32.8 billion naira funneled to phantom pensioners.
Just names invented or deceased individuals kept active on the ledgers.
Right, exactly. And we see this pattern repeat. The Niger Delta Development Commission, or NDDC, lost billions to non-existent phantom contracts in 2020.
Okay.
During the pandemic, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, the NCDC, they dealt with a 154 million naira inflated procurement fraud.
Wow.
And in 2021, the Nigeria Social Insurance Trust Fund, the NSITF, lost 2.6 billion naira to fake staff salaries.
So the historical progression goes from like Faking the supplies, to faking the contractors, to faking the individual employees.
Which is exactly why the PFIPC is such a massive leap forward in the evolutionary chain of corruption.
Because it's not just a part of the agency that's fake.
Right. The mechanical logistics of those past frauds required corrupting an existing legitimate institution.
Okay, yeah.
You have to manipulate a real payroll system to add a ghost worker. You have to manipulate a real procurement department to award a ghost contract.
So you need an inside guy.
Exactly. But what Adeyemi allegedly built was a complete ghost institution.
An entirely fictional entity.
Embedded directly into the state apparatus, it doesn't rely on bribing someone inside a real agency. It bypasses the real agency entirely.
That distinction is so crucial. But it also leads me to a massive question here.
What's that?
Wait, if this is a well-documented, decade-long pattern of escalating systemic fraud, why are the internal watchdogs only catching these schemes after the funds have been drained?
That is the core issue.
I mean, if we know the evolution, why are we still just chasing the ghosts instead of changing the locks on the front door?
This raises an important question about the effectiveness of internal oversight. And the uncomfortable truth highlighted in the dossier is that the internal mechanisms completely failed to catch this. The front door remains wide open because the system is just not designed to audit its own existence.
Wait, it wasn't a government auditor who finally brought this down, was it?
No, it wasn't. It required outside intervention, specifically investigative journalism.
Of course.
On July 11th, 2026, BBC journalist Chiamaka Dike broke the story.
Wow, shout out to her.
Absolutely. And she didn't have access to classified internal systems. She simply started tracing the paper trail of that forged letter.
She just asked the basic questions.
Exactly. She interviewed current and former government officials who confirmed the committee held absolutely no legal status.
Right.
And she exposed the specific budget line item that was funding the entire operation.
So for months, this fake committee is operating, drawing funds, paying staff, passing through multiple government payment cycles, and the entire bureaucratic labyrinth just missed it.
Completely missed it.
It took a reporter doing the basic legwork of asking, hey, does this thing actually exist, to collapse the whole house of cards.
Without her reporting, the PFPC would likely still be drawing funds today. The exposé was the necessary catalyst.
It forced their hand.
It publicly forced the state's hand, leading directly to yesterday, July 14th, 2026, when the Nigeria police officially arraigned Adeyemi at the federal high court.
Okay, on charges related to forgery and fraud, I assume.
Exactly.
So the principal suspect is caught, and the fake floor is being dismantled.
Now, yeah.
But getting back to the front door problem, the dossier emphasizes that civil society groups have been actively pushing for systemic fixes for years.
Decades, in some cases.
Right. I know groups like Paradigm Initiative, Budget, and Enough is Enough Nigeria have been very vocal.
Very vocal.
In the corporate world, if a vulnerability this massive was exposed, we'd immediately mandate a digital registry and freeze unverified accounts.
Yeah.
Is that the kind of framework they are proposing?
They are proposing exactly that kind of systemic mechanical overhaul. They have laid out very clear, actionable reforms to dismantle this infrastructure of corruption.
Okay, what's step one?
First and foremost, they advocate for a centralized, auditable digital registry of all government bodies, councils, and committees.
A single source of truth.
Exactly. A place where any civil servant or automated system can instantly verify if an agency legally exists.
Which totally solves the giftness problem.
It does.
The automated teller would finally be able to check if the bank account is real before spitting out the cash.
Precisely the goal.
What else?
Second, they propose mandatory digital signature verification for all executive appointments.
Oh, moving away from the wax seals.
Yes. This moves the system away from relying on wet ink and paper, which are easily forged, to actual cryptographic verification.
Makes total sense.
Third, they demand automated cross-referencing of budget line items against the official government gazette.
Let's break that down for a second, just for the listeners. The gazette is essentially the legal birth certificate of an agency.
Right.
If it's not published there, it doesn't officially exist under the law.
Right. So the reform would require the financial software to automatically bounce any funding request from an entity not listed in the Gazette.
Simple.
And finally, they are calling for forensic audits of all new entities created in the last 3 budget cycles to uncover any other anomalies.
So what does this all mean?
Well,
Because Looking at these proposals, we aren't talking about bleeding-edge artificial intelligence or unproven technology here.
Not at all.
We're talking about basic database management, cross-referencing, and digital authentication, things the private sector adopted like decades ago.
Yeah.
Why is there such profound institutional resistance to implementing these safeguards?
Because the resistance is rarely about technological capacity. It is almost entirely about institutional inertia. A paper-based system that relies heavily on human deference to authority is inherently opaque, and opacity benefits those who know how to navigate the shadows.
So it's a feature, not a bug.
For some, yes. Implementing a strict digital registry creates a rigid paper trail. It removes the human element of discretion or corruption at those critical checkpoints.
Right.
Past scandals triggered similar public outrage and similar logical reform proposals, and yet the fundamental architecture remains unchanged.
It's like celebrating the arrest of the guy who built the fake floor in the skyscraper, but still refusing to pull up the building blueprints to check if there are 3 more fake floors right above it.
Exactly. It's a reactive victory that entirely ignores the structural flaw.
Which brings this entire deep dive directly back to you, the listener.
The broader implications of this dossier extend far beyond the mechanics of the Nigerian national budget.
They really do. I mean, you might not be personally managing a multi-trillion naira national treasury, but you rely on massive, opaque systems every single day of your life.
Every day.
Corporate compliance structures, international banking security, digital identity networks,
Right.
healthcare administration.
All of them.
The PFIPC story is a masterclass in how incredibly complex systems often have shockingly simple single points of failure.
Very true.
These massive bureaucracies rarely fail because of a brilliant high-tech cyber attack. They fail because of our innate psychological deference to authority.
We just want to trust the system.
Right. They fail because we see a nice logo, an official-sounding title on an email or a heavy wax seal, and we just assume that someone else at some earlier desk already did the background check.
The siloed verification we dissected today is a universal human vulnerability.
Yeah.
We trust the paper because we trust the system without pausing to realize that the system is ultimately just a collection of overworked people choosing to trust the paper.
So true.
And the investigative conclusion of this dossier leaves us with a deeply uncomfortable proposition.
Lay it on us.
The dossier's underlying warning is that the PFIPC is likely not an outlier. It is a highly successful proof of concept. Someone recognized the systemic blind spot, exploited the deference culture, and it worked flawlessly until an outside journalist stumbled onto the thread.
Right.
If one individual with a printer and a forged letter could conjure $1 million government agency out of thin air, an agency that operated in plain sight for months, hired staff, held meetings, and effortlessly passed through national budget defense, how many other ghost institutions are currently running?
How many other fake floors are drawing power from the building right now?
Without a centralized digital registry, there is mathematically no way to count the ghosts. They are fully funded by taxpayers, operating seamlessly at this very moment simply because the system is not designed to look for them.
And it really makes you wonder, as you go about your day, in your own life or in your own corporate workflow, what established, unquestioned facts are you accepting as absolute truth right now, simply because someone handed you a piece of paper with a very nice logo on it?
It is an essential question to ask the next time a highly official-looking, yet slightly unusual memo crosses your desk.
That is all for today's deep dive. Stay curious, question the mundane, and maybe double-check those blueprints.